Shane, Chad, thanks for coming on the podcast.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
To be here.
Should be good.
Let me just ask, how'd you guys meet?
Well, we met at the dealership back in the day. So Chad was a technician in the service department, and I was a body shop technician.
And for the record, your name is Shane.
I'm Shane. Sorry. Yeah.
When we have one guest,
Apologize.
it's very easy to know which is which.
Yeah. I'm Shane. This is Chad, my business
I'm
partner. But yeah, that's where we met back in the dealership days. We were both in the shop getting dirty. That's where we met. Kind of became friends, kind of same age kind of thing. Chad was a cool guy in the shop. He worked the night shift. So usually when I came in the morning, he was still there. The dude was a workaholic.
What brand?
We had GM, Chrysler, Jeep.
A lot of different models there then.
Yep.
Okay.
So you're a workaholic, huh?
Yep.
He liked to make money.
I did the night shift for, I don't know what that was, probably 3-4 years. And they had to set a time where you could come in because I would just kind of just keep on working. So then they would like, okay, you have to leave at midnight and then you can't come back until like noon the next day. So I'd be there right at noon the next day.
Really?
Then I think they moved it to 2 or something like that.
You're like eating lunch the next day. I am kind of
They're
feeling
trying
tired.
to find ways to get rid of this guy. They're like, stay. What gave you that drive? Like, why were you in? So
We were flat rate commission based. So just the more hours you could turn, obviously the
you
better.
were hungry.
Yep.
Needed that money.
Yep. And obviously if you could still be there before the night shift began, maybe you could steal some stuff from the daytime guys. I don't know. So it was just always looking for work.
I didn't take you as a cutthroat kind of guy.
The daytime guys, I don't think loved him.
No.
like, Chad's still stealing.
This guy's
from
kind
him,
of a
so
jerk.
jobs.
I mean, what the heck?
Oh, it's awesome.
I remember coming in the morning because I worked in the body shops. A lot of times I would come in early to get the car out of the paint booth and finish up a job. So I get there early, 4:30, 5 o'clock sometimes, and he's still working. And I'm like, dude, go home. You've been there since noon. But yeah, I just kept on plugging along.
Golly. And so you were in the body shop.
Yeah, I was in the body shop world. So yep. That's
So
what
what were you doing in the body shop world?
So that shop, you pretty much did it from beginning to end. So it didn't matter if it was a frame hit or a bumper hit. Like you did the job from beginning to end. It wasn't a production type facility setup type thing. So yeah, but there's, same thing, flat rate. You want to make money. So a lot of times you stick around late and you'd paint the car towards the end of the day. Sometimes there till 10, 11, 12 o'clock, whatever, get it done, come in the next morning, unmask it, pull it out, buff it, detail it.
I had no idea you were a body guy.
Yeah.
Man.
That's my background. Yeah. High school, my dad had a 71 C10 truck and we kind of rebuilt that together. That kind of got me into the body shop side of things. And we did a lot of the mechanical stuff too, rebuilt the motor, all that jazz. But it was that point where, you're a senior and you got to decide what you're going to do the next year of your life. Do I want to get greasy or do I want to paint cars? And I'm like, doing this body shop stuff is kind of fun. It's kind of there's an art to it. So yeah, we went that direction. And yeah, I'm not from the automotive mechanical side of things. I got into it eventually, but not at first. So
Did not know that. That's cool.
Yep.
And Chad, you were in your dad's shop when you were like 10 years old.
Right. Yeah. I think he put me on the payroll when I turned 10. And it was back then. It was like
you can hire
$5 a
10-year-old.
week.
I don't think that's actually
it's $5 a day. So
$5 a day. Look, he's like $25 a week.
Yeah, $2.50 for a half day. So
yeah.
So the days where I came in after school or Saturdays or whatever
So you liked it?
I did like it. Yeah. I remember the first job was like I put spark plugs or something in an old 350 Chevy truck. Well, it wasn't old back then, but mid 80s or something like that. So, but yeah, I was sweeping floors, donut runs, picking up the mail, going to the bank, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Anything to keep busy. I was always tinkering on something just to try to stay busy, try to stay out of people's way, basically. So,
man.
And then eventually I was answering the phone, setting appointments, that kind of stuff.
And you went to the dealer.
Yeah, I worked for my dad till high school, a year after high school, actually. And then we were just kind of butting heads. I was a terrible employee. I was showing up late. Sometimes I would go to lunch and I would not come back till, the very end of the day, just totally disrespectful to my dad. I don't know. It was just that age that I guess, I don't know. I wasn't considerate. So I figured I had to get out of there and do something different. I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. So I applied for the dealership and they took me on. And
Had to show up on time.
Yeah, I had to show up on time. I was a very good employee.
You started making more than $5 and he just stayed there. They couldn't get him out.
I told him what I was making. I think I was making like $5.50 an hour or something at that point. It was back in the 94, 95 area. But I just told him I really didn't know how to work on cars. Like I didn't give him the whole truth. I just kind of like, I can sweep floors. I can do oil changes, basic stuff. And then I got in there and they're like, hey, could you try to put this fuel pump on? Yeah, I can do that. And they're like, you know more than what you're saying. So
sandbagging.
Pretty quickly.
Why were you hiding that?
I just didn't want to let them down. I guess I didn't know a big dealership versus a small town independent repair shop. I didn't want to get myself in too deep. I never went to Votech or anything like that. So I did not know how to diagnose properly and stuff like that. So I just didn't want to, I could take stuff apart, put it together. I just didn't feel comfortable like them giving me something brand new that with a running problem or something. So I didn't want that. So,
yeah.
But as they figured stuff out, then they started giving me heavier, harder stuff. So
I like it. I like the sandbagging you. What about you, man? Childhood, high school, getting into work?
Yeah, like I said, got into cars. My dad was always into cars, so he had a 71 Chevy truck, and for some reason it triggered in my brain, like, Dad, we should fix that up. So ironically, he said yes. That was in 1994, which I look back and I'm like, man, my dad let me rip apart his truck down to the frame. Like, who allows their kid?
You're like, I would never allow.
I would never allow my kid to do that. But that's what the unique part is. He said, "Yep, let's do it." And my dad, he was a mechanic for a short period of time in his career, but nothing about the body shop world. So that was just kind of our fun. Like we bonded. We drew really close together from age when I was 14 to 16. I remember my 16th birthday. I was trying to get the truck finished so I could take it out on my birthday. And it was probably 7 o'clock at night, something like that. I had some friends coming over and we had an issue with the back brakes and I couldn't get it done. And at 16, you got to drive past 8 o'clock. So I was pretty excited to take my truck out for the first time. And well, that was not going to happen. And so I went inside and showered and I come back out and my dad looks at me, throws me the keys. And he's like, there you go. Have fun. I'm like, what did you do? He's like, oh, we had an extra set of brake pads in the cabinet and I got them all in there. So you're set to go. So my 16th birthday, I got to take my truck out.
Oh man,
on the town. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. So
that's pretty cool.
Good dad moment. So yeah, that was fun. But yeah, just tinkered with that. Then I went to Laramie, Wyoming, of all places, to Wyotech for schooling. So 9 months of schooling. I really thought I was going to get booted probably the first month because they have a welding class that I've never welded in my life.
Yeah,
and they kind of threaten you, like if you don't pass these comps, like you're out of here. And I remember doing overhead welds and I sucked at them and I kept failing them. And all these other kids were just flipping everything over the normal way and welding it and then handing it in as an overhead weld. And I'm not that way. I got to do something the right way, So it took me longer. They didn't kick me out, but I got it. Got past that first big hurdle. And which I literally did think. I called my parents. I'm like, I think I might be coming home next week because I didn't finish my comps. And they said, if I don't get them done, I'm out. And
what'd your parents say?
They're like, they're not going to kick you out. And I'm like, no, I think they are. And but they ended up extending it. Like, nope, you can finish those in the next phase or whatever. So, but as a kid, 18-year-old kid, I was pretty scared there for a little bit. Like, well, my career as a body man is over before it started. But yeah, just pursued that. I went to work for a Freightliner dealership in Omaha, fresh out of school, for about 3 months, and found out I did not want to work on semis, grinding rivets and fiberglass. It was not going to be my thing. And so I ended up calling. I think I interviewed with the dealership back in the day because I had a friend that went there. I grew up in high school. He went the mechanical route and he was working there. And he called me up. He's like, hey, we're still looking. So long story short, ended up moving to Mitchell and working there.
Tell everybody what small town this was.
So Mitchell, South Dakota, it's the home of the Corn Palace. If you guys have never seen the Corn Palace.
I don't think I've heard of that.
I didn't know there was such a thing.
Wait, hold on.
Palace.
Oh, the Corn Palace.
Better.
Hey.
Better.
So if you're on your way to Sturgis sometime and you're cruising down I-90, you got to swing by Mitchell and see the Corn Palace. So, yeah. So yeah.
There are lots of times.
Yeah. Sure.
I have got that on my the sticker on my truck.
Oh yeah, you got to get that marked off your to-do list. So
yeah.
So you went to work there as a young man, not really know much.
Not really know much at all. Nope.
So you two both went there as rookies.
Yeah. Yep. And the cool thing is, I think it's just I'll attribute it to your upbringing. I think I think your parents have a lot to do with your work ethic and who you're going to be and what you're going to be and that kind of thing. Like you're just taught to work hard no matter what it was, just work hard. So just kind of dove in. I remember the first few cars I did not turn out good. Had to repaint some cars, had to redo some body work that I did, but you live and learn. So, but just put the effort in. And I think, I don't remember exactly. I have to go back and look, but I know I remember this, they had me starting to estimate cars when they would come in. And I was pretty decent at it. I was a nice kid, could do estimates, talk to people. I remember on April 1st, I forget the year, I'm going to screw that up, but it was probably only 2 or 3 years into my body shop. They asked me, they pulled me in the office and they said, "Hey, do you got a pair of dress slacks at home?" I'm like, "Yeah, I think so." "Why? You got a button up shirt?" "Yeah." "Yeah. How about a tie?" I'm like, "I think I have a tie." "Why?" "All right, well, congratulations. Go home and change. You're the new body shop manager."
Oh.
And I'm like, "What?" I'm working on 3 cars out in the shop. I'm like, "Is this?" And it was April 1st. So I'm like, "Is this April Fool's?" Like, "No, go home and change." And I'm like, this is weird. I walk out of the office. Everybody's looking at me like, "What's wrong?" And I'm like, I'm going to go home and change. And they're like, "What?" And I'm like, "Oh, you'll see." So I drove home, changed clothes, came back, and everybody's, of course, looking at you like, "What is going on?" So yeah, that was my intro to management.
Oh my God.
Wow.
Here you go. The shop's yours. Yep.
Wow.
So
when you finally left there, were you still a manager?
yeah, so when I left there, so that store, our dealer principal, the owner, ended up buying a store in Iowa. And he asked me if I would consider, there's a whole story behind that, but asked me if I would consider to move down to Iowa to help run the fixed operations side of things, the body shop and service department, parts, detail, and all that. And I, for some reason, said yes. And I moved to Iowa for about a year and had my pay plan changed. Is it 4 or 5 times in a year? We doubled the body shop the first month.
He was like, "Crap, I'm paying this kid too much money."
That's exactly what happened every single time. And I was paid commission, and you get your paycheck and they're like, "Shane, we just didn't expect it to do this well. So we're going to change your pay plan." And I'm like, "But isn't that the point of commission? Like, so I can do well?" I was paid really good money as a manager, so I wanted to make that same kind of money. But yeah, I remember 4 times. I think it was the 5th time. I think it was. I just finally walked in the next day with my resignation papers and said, "There you go."
And this was still in Iowa?
This was in Iowa. Yep. So it was fun. I learned a ton because that was my first intro into the service department. Because at the time I just ran the body shop and detail. But then they had me, of course, dive into parts a little bit, dive into the service department. Did you come down, Chad, I think once to help with some of that stuff?
For a few days. Yep.
I think at that point in time, Chad had to have been, were you service manager or parts and service director there?
Yeah.
Something like that. But I learned a ton. That was my intro to the parts world and the automotive mechanical side of things. So yeah, that's my first step into that type of work.
What about you, Chad? Can you tell us how you went from just turning tons of hours to working your way up to management?
I was, like I said, I never went to Votech or anything, so I always did kind of struggle a little bit with the diagnostic side of things. I remember a couple cars that really kicked my butt pretty good. Cadillac, and I don't remember what the other one was, but I just decided that, I think I would like working on the front counter, like as a service supervisor. And I asked them several times, they're like, "No, you're too valuable in the shop. No, we're not going to do that. We're not going to go that route." And I kept bugging them, and they're finally like, "Okay, you want to do this? We're going to give you an interview. We're going to sit you down." And I think they totally thought I was going to like bomb the interview, but I actually did pretty well, I think. And they're like, "Well, we'll give it a shot. We're going to do it." And like the start of the year, this was like in September, November, October, that area. And then we're just going to wait till January. We got to find a replacement for you because you turn a lot of hours out in the shop. So they put me on the counter January 1st, and I did pretty well. There was another advisor and a manager, and it was all commission based. So it was all pretty cutthroat, I remember. Because you just got paid off what you actually sold, all the work you sold. And I was doing pretty good. And eventually, I was in the National Guard at the time. And by June, it came around. I went to my basic training, or my two-week summer camp. And they came back and they were like, congratulations, you're the service manager. The other two decided to take off right after you left. So we've been
This
without
dealership
anybody.
group
Yeah.
has an interesting way of promoting people.
Yeah.
And thank you for your service.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then I was the new service manager and only advisor for quite some time. And I ended up having to hire advisors, and we worked Saturdays back then. So I was working every day and Saturdays till 3:00 in the afternoon. So I was getting pretty worn out at this point, but
Yeah.
I did that for quite a few years, and they put me into the parts manager role. I got moved into the body shop role for a couple of years, even though I knew nothing about body shop, but I figured it out. And then I got the
So you learned body shop, he learned service.
yeah,
Flip flopped.
So then I did fixed operations for a while. They were actually grooming me to run my own dealership at some point, which never happened. But that's kind of where things were going.
Yeah. Well, what was the pressure point that got you both looking to do something else?
Yeah, I think the one day I had showed up and I had seen things were kind of getting that they weren't investing in training, and they were kind of slowly. Things were just changing, and then just the culture was changing as we were buying these stores, and the new stores weren't producing like they all wanted this model like we were in these different areas of the country, and that just wasn't working in those areas. They weren't doing as well as what the big shop had done, and things were changing. And I seen the dumpster was just like heaping over, like piled up. One day when I came into work and I called the dumpster company, and they were like, "Yeah, pay your bill and we'll come pick up the trash." I'm like, ugh, this is not good. So at that point I had started, Shane had left the company at that point. And I think it wasn't that long after, I'm like, I got to get out of this. This is not looking good. They can't even pay the garbage company. How are they going to support me?
I think they had 5 dealerships at that time.
Yeah, I think so. Yep. Yep. So,
Wow.
so the writing was on the
A
wall.
little thin.
Yep.
Some of those stores probably just started taking a lot, not really producing.
Mm-hmm. And I remember a couple of them had they were big lots when they took them over, and there were only like 3-4 cars on the lot for sale, so it was, people were like, what is going on?
Yeah. So you reaching that point,
Yep.
and then you call him, "Hey, I'm pulling the parachute. I'm out of here."
Yep.
What was the conversation like? Let's do our own shop. Or were you looking around, or what was going on?
I think that's we'd always been kind of talking about that because.
So y'all stayed in contact when you moved.
Yeah, we're really close friends. So yeah, I left that dealership, moved back to South Dakota, worked for an independent dealer. He had 3 stores. I had a GM store and then two independent stores. And you get to that point in life where you're just like, man, I'm making somebody else a lot of money. At what point in time do we try to start making ourselves money? Because you're kind of limiting your capacity, your ability to make more money. And we went to it was called a Napa BDG meeting, and the parts store owner in that town said, "Hey, there's a store on 12th Street that's for sale, but he'd take a good manager. So if any of you guys know of somebody, I can get you his contact info." And that's kind of how that conversation started. So I remember calling up Chad and telling him about it, and he didn't even hesitate. He's like, "Yeah, I'd do that," because we'd obviously kind of known the situations that we're in. And I met the owner. And keep in mind, like, I don't come from money. I don't have money hiding out in some safe somewhere. So I'm like, how's this going to happen? Chad was on board, kind of the same situation. Met the owner at the store and toured it. It was a beautiful facility. So I love it. It's great. One question though, and he's like, "Yeah, what's that?" And I'm like, "Would you ever consider a contract for deed?" And he didn't even hesitate. He said, "Yeah, I'd do that for you." I'm like, "Really?" I was just shocked. I'm like, somebody would actually. I just met this dude. I know who he is, and he's going to give us a shot at a contract for deed. So that started it. Called Chad, gave him the news. He was still on board. And
so let's hit pause real quick. You had just turned in your resignation?
No, I was still working. I was just at that point where I'm like, I'm making money for somebody else. Can I make money for myself?
So you had not quit the Iowa job yet?
No, I was done with that. Yeah, I moved from Iowa. This was probably 5 years after that.
Oh, okay.
5 years, yeah. So at that independent dealership, that's where I was the parts and service director for about 5 years, running the parts and service department of that dealership. Yep. And that's where it really kind of started clicking. Like, gosh, we're this far along in our career. Like, why can I not make myself this money? I'm making somebody else all this money. Mm-hmm. Let's do something for ourselves. So yeah.
And at that time, you're managing the big store?
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yep.
But they're not paying the trash bill.
Not paying the trash bill. No,
And
fantastic.
so you both in different scenarios started feeling things are going in a bad direction
Mhm.
and this opportunity comes up. So I just wanted to make sure for the listeners that timeline wise.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. The only problem with that, I'm glad that he was willing to do a contract for D, but we had no money. The guy wanted 10% down. So that's where,
You faked it. Yeah, no problem.
we
What was
faked
the
it.
price of the store?
$795 is what they wanted. It was real estate.
So you
It
had
really-
to come up with 800 grand.
Yeah.
Or
yeah.
I'm sorry, 80 grand.
Ended up being, 100 grand is what we needed at the end of the day is what it ended up being.
Closing costs and everything.
Yep. So that's, I had a friend of mine at the time with the dealership I was working with. I thought we were good friends. He had worked in the body shop. He had a brother that had some money, that had access to money. So long story short, we did a partnership between four of us. And
Who were the four?
it was myself, Chad. I won't say the names of the other two, but they're brothers.
Yeah.
And the one brother put in the money, 100 grand, for us to get started. And that was the beginning of the partnership world with four of us. So we each had 25% ownership. You know, looking back, there's a lot of things going back to that stuff. If I knew now, or if I knew then what I know now, I would do things a lot differently. But back then, I just didn't know. I knew this was my way to get into a business.
Mm-hmm.
And this is how Chad and I could get started using somebody else's money, and let's do this and let's run with it. So yeah, that was our first start into that. It was obviously we had a very rough start. I think our first year we did 660,000 in sales.
Mhm.
I did not work there the first year. Chad did with his wife. Chad's wife is very, very knowledgeable. I don't know what she was in the accounting side of things first and then got into I'll let Chad talk about that. But she helped us out a ton. Her and Chad basically the first year ran it.
And why were you not there? Was the choice there wasn't enough business or?
Not enough business to pay myself. Yep.
Okay.
So I came on. I remember Chad calling me, is it December, November, something like that? He's like, dude, you got to come on. Like, we cannot do this. I can't do this on my own anymore. And my mind,
What was the reasoning where you had that phone call? You're like, you got to get over here.
Yeah. Well, we started off with just two guys I think in the back of the shop. It was them, two technicians, and then
Yeah.
me and Megan up front, my wife, and just we were taking everything in that we possibly could. We were saying yes back even before we knew Shop Fix, but we were taking everything in, and it just we could just feel the business was growing and growing, and we kind of went through. It started off really good, and then I think that summer it dropped really bad. We had a vendor that was coming in, and then they built their own shop, and all that business went away. It's a substantial amount. I don't remember what it was per month, but a lot of cars, and
burned
that
some
went
cash.
that went away. So I was literally knocking on other dealerships, used car dealerships, like, we can work on your cars, we can do whatever you need to do, give you a good deal. But then the customers kind of started coming in at that point, and like, me and Megan couldn't handle it by ourselves. Like, we need to hire an advisor, or Shane needed to come on board. So I was feeling like it was coming, like there was a big surge coming that we weren't going to be able to handle by ourselves. So that's why I was like, you got to come on.
Yeah.
You got to come over here.
Yeah.
Isn't it funny how you took business away, but it made room for the other business?
Right.
Mhm.
Right.
And that happens so much in life. We don't realize that for opportunity to appear, you actually have to make room for opportunity.
Those hard things are usually blessings in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yep. That was a scary, I think it was May or June, our first year. They just
Mhm.
shut the spigot off, and that was like half our business. I'm like, oh, all right. Well, welcome to the business world. Figure it out. But yeah, I remember him calling me up, and I made the decision. I gave my notice and cashed out what was left of any retirement that I had, so I could have something to live off of. We planned on not paying me right off the bat because we just didn't know if we could. I knew I had to hit a certain dollar amount in sales before I could pay for myself. So we did that for about 6 months, and I think May or June, I finally started paying myself a little bit of money, which was great. It was lovely to get paid again.
And were you doing a role in the business?
Service advisor. Yep. Which is a role I'd never done in my life. So, I was manager. I was a good manager, but never sold service. So yeah, it was eye opening for me. Did what I could. I worked. I like people. So people do business with people. So just relationships. And we did kind of, the 300% rule really wasn't a thing that we knew of back then, but it was one of those things that we knew that you had to inspect every vehicle. You had to tell people about it. It was just like you always talk about, it's your moral obligation to tell them what's going on. So we did believe in that. A lot of normal things we did, but yeah, first year was a little scary. Second year was probably scarier for me, not getting paid for a while. But then it just slowly kind of It did grow. It did. But then we had two business partners that, demanded, a return on their investment, which one partner had no investment, maybe $5,000.
I was going to ask how 25% happened with no investment, but I wasn't going to pass right by that.
That wasn't the first offer, but then the guy that was given $100,000 in said, "Hey, I think I should have a little bit more than my 10%." And I'm like, "Yeah, you're probably right." It was a weird way we did it. I didn't know any different. It was just our way to get into the business.
Yeah.
But that started going downhill. Year 2, wasn't making the money. We were barely paying our bills. We went through getting one of those credit card loan deals that, would not suggest for anybody.
MCA. Yeah.
Going through that stuff. I remember the one meeting, our business partner said, we were getting pretty heated. And he said, "What are you spending on toilet paper?" And I'm like, "What does that have to do with anything? See, you don't even know what you're spending your money on." And I'm like, "Dude, you cannot save your way to profits. The toilet paper is the cheapest I can get, by the way, but it's not the expenses. We need more sales." And it was that moment that I'm like, we're on two different levels. Like, you're still focused on what expenses are, and which I get, you have to watch that, but not, it was sales. We needed sales, and we needed money to market and to get sales. And that was the start of the end, I think, of many things, but that was the start of the end for those two to try to get them out.
Yep.
So when those two, I guess you had that clarifying moment and you're like, oh, this is where it's all shifting gears. What was the process? And this is two-parted. How much revenue were you doing? I know it was around 6 that first year. Mm-hmm. So it sounds like this is the end of the second. So how much revenue were you doing? And then what was the process you two came up with to move them out?
I think our second year was it just under $1 million?
Yeah.
I think it was just under $1 million in sales. And the first process was just simply some easy conversations. And of course, those turned out to be, they're not going to be easy conversations. So I remember writing the one gentleman, I think it was an email with just, "Hey, what do you think of this?" Seemed very fair. The one partner had literally like $5,000 into it. The other partner had his 100 in. So I laid out a plan how to pay him back and get their money back. And that got shut down. And it went back and forth. At the end of the day, that took, I think, by year 3, we finally came to terms on the buyout. And really what triggered it, I was telling Jay earlier that it was basically, I was at a car dealership delivering a car, and they were doing the pool for the lottery. "Well, Shane, what would you do with how many X amount of millions of dollars if you won it?" And I'm like, "I buy my partners out." And he's like, "What? Well, tell me more." So that's what started. He started the conversation like, "I'd be interested." And like, okay, so now I have an option, a way to buy these guys out quicker. If I can get this guy's money to use it to buy out the other two, that's what we'll do. And
Partner swap.
Yep. So
2 for 1.
Yeah. So we all had 25% ownership. Shorten up the story. We agreed to terms with those two, with this new partner coming on. His money basically paid those two off. And then we each had equal third partner or 33% ownership.
So you did a new deal and you went from 25 to 33.
Yes. Yep. So it worked. I mean, that seemed like it was a good deal. This guy owned a car lot, selling lots of cars. Hey, we can generate a lot more income. They're going to bring customers over, show them our shop. Hey, this is our shop. The whole spiel, right?
And you bought the other two out for what they gave you, 100 and the 5?
No, we had to pay more. Yeah.
Oh.
Yep. Of course.
Yeah.
Yep. So
you had to pay more, and now you're basically in debt with this guy, but it's not debt because it's equity right at the moment.
Correct. Yep. It's all equity. Yep.
So here you are in the new deal. Things are rocking. You're in what, 3rd year?
This will be year 3. Yep.
What are you tracking in revenue for year 3?
Year 3, I think, was right around 1.5.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Okay.
1.5. So it was decent. We had some decent growth. The problem, though, is we didn't understand gross profit. We didn't understand cash flow. We've always paid our bills, but we're like, man, you're busting your tail, and we're just not like, where's the cash? Where's the cash? And we struggled with that for several years. I mean, we kept selling, we kept growing. I think if we fast forward a little bit from 2013, 14, probably up until 2018. I mean, I think 2018 we finished right at 2 million in sales.
Yep.
So we were growing through this whole thing. And, the shop was growing.
How big's the shop?
This is an 8-bay facility. Yep.
Okay.
On a main road. So it's got good location. But not making the cash we should is probably a big part of it. We came to a Shop Hackers in April of 2019, right? Mm-hmm. and you were doing a presentation on gross profit per hour, and light bulbs were popping off in my head. I'm like, I got to go back and I got to figure this out. Never heard the term before. Dealership world, we didn't learn that term. We didn't know what that was, but it all just clicked. Overhead cost per hour, gross profit per hour, net profit per hour. Like it just, I got to go home and figure this out. At the time we had a couple of dealerships used car lots we were doing a lot of work for. One was about 30 grand a month. The other one was probably half that maybe?
Yeah. 10, 15.
10 to 15. Went back and calculated out what they spent, what money we were making on that. It was zero or losing money on every deal.
You were
that we
like,
did with them.
holy crap.
And I'm like, well, we're not going to tell them we're cutting them off, but we're raising their rates. And we did. And a month later, they were gone. The unique, cool part about it is regular customer work filled it up. And now we had a new metric, gross profit per hour, life-changing metric for us, literally.
We didn't lose any business. It just all filled in with retail.
Yep.
Yep.
Isn't that funny though? Again, the opportunity can't appear until you make room for it.
Correct. Yep. And that was right around. So in that process, towards end of 2018 into 2019, we were talking to our current business partner. He was very uninvolved at this time. Would not even respond to messages, emails, calls, and it was very negative at that point in time.
But he's getting a check.
Yeah, a little bit. We made sure to pay him something. Yep. But obviously not to his liking. And, we were getting paid because we were working in the business. So his return on his investment wasn't as high as he would have liked, obviously, from his perspective. He quit sending us work from his dealership. The process we had set up from his new customers that he had sold cars to, supposed to be coming to our shop, wasn't happening anymore. Basically was just kind of hanging us out to dry. Like, all right, I'm a partner, but I'm not an active partner in any way, shape, or form. I'm not even going to try to help you. So we tried to buy him out several different ways, tried to convince him lots of different ways. He would just ghost us. Finally, we had talk to our attorney, drew up some papers, basically changing some of our articles of incorporation, and that finally triggered his attention to show up to a meeting, and brought his attorney with him. And I went upstairs with him, and first thing I told him, I said, hey, this is a members only meeting. Your attorney's not allowed to be here. And he said, well, if you're going to send a letter like that, you better bring a gun and your attorney. All right. Okay. Well, that's how
better bring a gun and your attorney.
So, all right. So I went downstairs.
That's how they do it in the Dakotas.
Yeah.
So
was this meeting outside?
No. But, hey, at least it grabbed his attention, and he actually showed up. He had ghosted us for a long time. We've been trying to work something for him for a long time, to be fair. And this finally triggered it, which, hey, if that happened that way, then it happened that way. That's fine.
Yeah.
From that point on, we had a meeting that night. It was a very, very tense meeting for sure. Lots of things were said. But after that, it was pretty much negotiated through our attorneys. And that was really, at the end of the day, buying him out was really us buying into our $2 million business. Because at that point in time, we put our time into it, our sweat equity into it, but not a ton of cash. Because remember, we didn't really put any cash into this thing from the very beginning. So, So if there's, that's how I had to tell myself, like, hey, if we're paying this guy this much money, that's really our buy-in to this $2 million store is what it is. So that was in 2018 is when we finalized that deal, the very end of 2018. So 2019 on, it's just Chad and I. We're good.
We made it.
We made it through that.
50-50.
And you just signed into Shop Hackers right when you ended that deal with him?
Yeah, pretty much right in line there. Yep. Chad had found you guys on Facebook, right?
Yep.
What made you decide to do that crazy decision?
Just felt drawn to it. I don't know. I listened to a lot of your videos and just seemed like we were on the same wavelength as far as your faith anyway. And that's kind of what drew me to listen to you. And then I think I went to one of the trainings that you had. Okay. And then you had at the end, I think you had if you sign up now, but if you wait till here, it's going to be this much. I'm like, I told Shannon, we got to sign up now. And he was like, what is this?
Who's sign up now? Who's this Sham Wow
Who's
guy?
this internet guy?
It's like, well, we just got to go to one. We'll see what it's like. We don't have to sign up, and we'll see what it's like. And
we were hooked.
History.
Yep. We were hooked. Yep.
So you went, enjoyed it. At this point, you're doing how much revenue in 19?
Just finished 2 million, maybe a little over, but yeah, right at 2 million. Yep.
So catch us up from 19 to now.
what do you want to know? 2019 and now. So
Revenue, big.
yeah,
events.
so now we bought our second store in 2021, March of 2021.
But you just skipped 20.
What do you want? 20 was a year you want to forget, but
How much revenue?
2020, what did we do? 2.5?
Yeah. Yeah.
I think 2.5 of that
Yep.
store. Yeah, just under. It was like 2,458,000.
Yeah. We didn't hit 2.5 yet.
No, just under. Yep, that was 2020. We definitely would have hit it. I forget what month it was. End of March. April was really rough.
April
May
was rough.
started coming back, and then after that, it was blown out. So, yeah, just under 2.5 in 2020, and then 2021 came around, and a shop down the street came up for sale, and ended up closing that deal in March of 21. And that year we finished, that store, the second store finished at right at 800,
Mhm.
800 something for those 9 months roughly. And then
Not bad.
our big store, our main store was, what did we do that year? You remember?
Just under 3.
Yeah.
Just under 3.
Yeah.
Yep.
Just under 3.
And the new store was a ground up or was it an operating
No,
business?
It's an operating business. It was a bay facility, 1 block off the main road, about a mile from our shop. It was kind of a mom and pop type store. The guys that owned it ran the front counter.
And you weren't worried about it cutting into your current business at all?
I mean, they had a profitable operating business with lots of clients. So why could we not take over that? And
And did you
Yeah.
change the name or
no,
is it still to this day 2 separate names?
Yep. 2 separate names.
That's
Yep.
smart when they're that close.
Yeah. Yep. So our main location, I shouldn't call it main. They're both main
Yeah,
locations.
but your first location.
First location, 12th Street Auto Care is on the main road, and then Team Automotive is 1 block off. And yeah, they're only about a mile apart, probably not even quite a mile.
So how'd revenue do over the next couple of years?
So then they grew 2022. Our second location did just under 1.5. And then what did we do in,
Last
20.
year they did 2.2.
2.2 last year they did. Yep.
Wow.
And the main
Our
store?
main store, we finished last
325.
year at 3,250,000. Yep.
Yep.
Yep. So,
And so what's going on with you guys in those 2 stores while this is all going on? You open a
Here's-
second one. What's your role at those? Because you brought him
Yeah.
in. You're like, hey, come in here, get an active
Yeah.
role. What's going on now?
Yeah.
Here's the fun, crazy part to me is we hired, we knew that if we wanted to scale, we wanted a second store, but we knew if we wanted that, we did not want to be the one in the business all the time. We ended up hiring a general manager. That was in October of 2020. So going through COVID, decided to hire a general manager, questioning the decision, but we did it. Let's go. 2021, open the store. I remember you kind of get jacked up for it, okay, we're all prepared. Everybody's got their things they're supposed to do. And day 1, we're in there, and man, what did we do that first day, Chad? I mean, it wasn't like I was expecting that you're going to be needed a ton.
Yep.
And really, I wasn't needed.
No.
That was probably one of
nice.
the weirdest feelings.
Yep.
You go from your first store, open it up, and you're doing everything,
Yeah.
to your second store, and you're like, you're ready. And then your team's just kind of doing it for you. And it was just, definitely that stood out to me at our second.
It can be an identity crisis.
big time.
I mean-
I'm not needed.
Yeah.
So
I'm not important.
yeah, yep. So that was a big thing for me, anyways. With that second store, it was it was a cool deal. It was a little surreal at the moment because wow, we took all this effort to get store 1, but then store 2 is like we don't even need to be here right now. So right now, currently, we're in the stores Monday and Wednesday,
Mhm.
and that's our 2 days that we work at each location, and then work from home Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. So
Yep.
which allows me to coach, which is awesome, and allows Chad to do the things that he needs to do. So
It's crazy. So yeah, you're giving back. You're doing your other hobbies, and you guys aren't working near as much as you used to. Making the money for yourselves, not for the man.
yep.
2 locations, just crushing it.
Mhm.
It sounds like 5.6 million on those 2.
Our goal was 5.5 last year, and we hit 5.
Just over.
What did we hit last year? Just over 5.5.
Yeah.
So,
And this next year?
well, we're hoping for 3.6 out of our main one and 2.5 out of our second one. So,
Okay.
Wow.
see how it goes.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
It's exciting.
Yep.
It's been a very powerful story. If someone else is trying to get off the ground and find their way to do this, Is there anything you would have done differently, or any advice you'd give them if they have no money? They got the
You
skills.
tell them to find 6 partners.
Yeah.
6 partners.
Let's not find partners.
So how would you do it? I mean, if you had to go back again, what would you have done differently?
I don't know if I change anything of the story really, because that story got me to where I'm at. So the nice thing is you can help other people going through that situation. So it may have been hell for us, but at least I can give somebody else some relief if they're going through some of that stuff. So
That's a very polished answer. Let's go to Chad now. See what he says. Chad, what about you?
I would have put money in from the start.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I could have changed much of the story, but if I could, I would have probably done things maybe just a little bit faster, but I don't know. I'm kind of happy with the way that it worked out. Just, you learn things that you wouldn't have gone through if you hadn't had to. So I don't know. For somebody that I think that's trying to get into it, I think you just got to keep going, keep pushing. Don't let people tell you can't do it. You just got to keep grinding, keep trying.
Yeah.
So,
Well, one thing you guys were talking about earlier when we were just chatting is about limited beliefs. And when you set goals for yourself, tell me a little bit about that. How has that impacted you guys?
You know, I think for me, and I don't remember which conference it was, but it definitely felt challenged by something Aaron was talking about. And I don't remember what conference. I have no idea which one that was, but I remember Chad and I kind of looking at each other like, well, I think we need to get store 2. Never once in my wildest dreams did I think I'd ever own a store, much less 2. And I have no idea what you said, but it just triggered me.
Yeah.
And I remember looking at Chad and he was kind of the same thing. And so it's just that limiting belief that just because it's just unique where you can limit yourself, but then you go listen to somebody else just talk truth, and feed into you. And that's what coaching's all about.
Yeah.
That's what personal development's all about, is learning that you can do more than what you ever imagined you could do. And just somebody, you didn't even know me, but I felt like you believed in me. And that's just the power of good people in your life, surrounding yourself with good people and learning from the best.
And there's someone driving a pickup truck right now, hearing you say that, and the hair in the back of their neck just stood up.
Yeah.
Like there's somebody right now who's saying, maybe I can do it.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't have to stop either. That, like, who's limiting your growth? Is it your own mind? That's my biggest takeaway is if you're thinking about doing something, like, God put you on this planet for a reason. So go do it.
Yeah.
And don't listen to the other voices that are telling you, oh, you can't do that. You can't do that.
Yeah.
Go do what you're created to do.
What your ceilings could be your floors.
Absolutely. Yep. Absolutely. And the second thing I'd say is, man, and I'll brag on ShopFix, but the things that we've learned in ShopFix, that took us 9 years to get to $2 million in our first store, 8 years. Our second store got there in 2, just by implementing those things. So having a good coaching company teaching you how to grow a store is incredible.
Time collapses,
Oh,
shortens
it's huge.
everything.
Yep. Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah.
So good coaching can go a long ways.
Well, I would also say people that listen can go a long ways.
Well, it does take
Very
action.
true.
Yes. You got to have the action.
You guys have always put in the work. You've always just doubled down and made it happen. I mean, we got this guy working, basically 2 days back to back in one, working overnight. That just goes to show y'all are committed. You're hardworking. You decided one would work while one didn't, and you stayed out until the business could afford it. There was a lot of strategy there. Even though you didn't know what to do, you were deploying wisdom that you at least had at the moment.
Wisdom that we have at the moment. Correct. Yeah. Good.
And I hope other people can take that away and go, all right, maybe I don't know all the answers, but right now I'm at least going to listen to what I do know.
I think that's a big part. Don't, you're never going to get it all figured out trying to open up your own store. Like, just go do what you know you can do. You're not going to get it all figured out day one. It's okay to not know it all. If you don't want to have that analysis paralysis, because that can definitely happen.
Yeah, I was talking to my daughter the other day, and she was wanting to get in the real estate world, and specifically possibly commercial real estate. And I said, listen, sweetie, there's a few that are hardworking, but 99% of all commercial agents are lazy. They do nothing. And you call, they don't call you back. You call, they don't call you back. You call, and they go, oh, sorry, I was busy with this deal, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And it's frustrating. With the residential side, they hustle so much more, but the commercial, they don't work past 5. They don't work Saturday. They won't work Sunday. And I was like, sweetie, this is wide open for you. She's like, but Dad, I don't know anything. I said, but here's the thing. You're saying what it takes is 80% knowledge. And I'm saying what it takes is 80% effort.
Mm-hmm.
If you get in there and just outwork everybody and somebody asks you a question you don't know and you go, let me find out for you.
Yep.
You guys were working hard. You were doing the 80% effort.
Also goes a long ways. Yep. Absolutely.
Absolutely goes along. It keeps you out of debt too.
Yep.
And if you don't hustle, you end up in, more debt and end up with a bigger issue, years later.
Yep.
And so I think a lot of young people that might be listening to this, wanting to open their own shop, wanting to get their start, just like my daughter and just a career, you got to remember that at the end of the day, hard work, a sense of urgency, like we always talk about, and getting that customer their needs met quickly can get you a long way, even if you know nothing.
Yeah.
Yep.
Absolutely.
So what's next for you guys?
And we're actually working on shops 3 and 4 right now. So,
Not just
Ruh-roh.
3 and 4.
yep, we were working on number 3 a year ago with a gentleman, and he at the time just said, "No, it's too much for me. I just need to back off. I'll contact you in a couple of years when I'm ready. I'm just gonna suck it up and get these next 2 years out of the way, and then I'll give you a call." Okay, that's fine. So then in November we started working on another deal with a guy that's been a struggle. We've been going back and forth, and it's not been easy. But in the meantime, this guy called me up about a month ago and said, "I'm ready to sell. Like, I want to talk to you as soon as I can."
The day we made the offer on
Yep.
on the other store.
Yep. So
Like 5 minutes after we made the offer.
5 minutes.
Literally.
He literally just had somebody quit and he's like, I'm done.
yep. So I already know everything about this other store. We're totally comfortable with. It's a little bit of a smaller deal. So
Yeah.
we're just, if
Proud
it
of you
happens,
guys.
if it happens that way, it
Exciting.
happens. So.
That's awesome.
Proud of you.
Well, that sounds exciting. That's you guys are come a long way, come through a
Yeah.
lot of different
Oh, yeah.
things, and now you're moving on to it. So it's opportunity arises and you're ready to go. You've scaled up, you've learned, and now when it's showing up, you're ready to do it.
Yeah.
That's
It's
fantastic.
exciting. It's fun.
Well, I hope that your story and your ambition and your dreams are motivating to other people who maybe don't have all the pieces figured out. And, man, these guys figured it out.
Hey, if we can figure it out, they can figure it out. That's
Yep.
okay.
They can.
We'll get there.
Stay late until they close the doors.
Yep.
Stay till noon the next day.
That's right.
No, we don't recommend that, but
Oh man,
good stuff, guys.
guys, thanks for sharing with us.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us. Appreciate it.